Hey, just gonna give it a couple minutes and see if people are wanting to join. I assume people can hear me. If you can you guys just someone say something or like leave a comment if you can hear me okay and see me okay? Just thumbs up or something like that so I know. I'm gonna open it on my phone too so that I can. All right, I'm gonna watch on here too. All right, I'm definitely live. Hey everyone, hi. So I'm just gonna get started, and hopefully my dog doesn't want to participate in this, but if he does, apologies in advance. Great. So first and foremost, I'm really honored to have been asked to present here today. I have been really enjoying these video chats every day at 5 o'clock. I find myself around 5. I'm always tuning in to hear what people are saying. So Gail, thank you for creating a platform like this. I've learned a lot. And I hope that I can hopefully provide something valuable for you guys that are tuning in. So just to dive right in, my name is Lydia Liebman. I am a publicist and promoter, and I work primarily in jazz. All of my clients or the acts I work with come from the jazz tree, I say, and some are on different branches, but they all pretty much come from the jazz, universe. So that is the majority of what I work with. And just to give a little bit of background, I don't want to spend too much time on it. There's plenty of stuff out there on the internet about how I got involved in all this and what my start was and everything. But the short version is I opened up my agency kind of informally in 2010. That's when I started doing this promotional work. I started in Boston. I was a student at Berklee College of Music and at Emerson College at the same time. And I developed a radio show at Emerson that was a jazz program, and I loved it. I was totally into it. I had everyone on that show, from Kurt Elling to Pat Metheny to Gregory Porter. I treated it very seriously, and I loved it a lot. And that kind of exposed me to the music business, or the business of jazz, as opposed to growing up in a household where both my parents are musicians, and obviously, and I kind of, saw it from that perspective growing up. But being on the radio was the first time I experienced it on the other side. So I did that for about 4 years. And while I was doing that, I started to get involved in show promotion in Boston. The Berklee Global Jazz Institute, founded by Danilo Perez and Marco Pignataro, was actually my first real account. And I didn't know much of what I was doing at the time. I learned a lot on the job. But it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed working with the global and working with Berklee, and that's kind of how I got involved into doing PR. So flash forward to 2014, I moved to New York, and I've been here ever since. And since then, it has been a very interesting journey where things have just been really, it's been really crazy. I didn't really set out to be a publicist. I didn't set out to do this particularly, but it became apparent that my skill set was just very valuable in this way. So I've been doing this now full-time, since about 2014, and here we are in 2020. So I would like to really, open it up to questions from the get-go. I think that I'm going to see if I can pull my comments up maybe on my phone because I'm not seeing them on the browser. Sorry. Something that I notice is I think PR is it's kind of almost behind a curtain, and I sometimes feel that it's it's kind of a question what do we do? What do publicists do? What's our jobs? What does it entail? So some of my clients, just to give you some background, currently involve great roster. I work with Lakeisha Benjamin, Michael Altuja, Andy Milne, Ralph Peterson, Spanish Harlem Orchestra, Tana Alexa, going to be working with Brianna Thomas soon, working with Charles McPherson soon, I work with Randy Brecker and my dad, Dave Liebman, or Ron Etkin, a pretty diverse list of clients. And a lot of them actually happen to be Gail's. So thank you, Gail, for being one of the first ones to, to see me early on and contributed to a lot of the great clients I work with. But so with all these different artists, I'm always taking a look and seeing when they're giving me their new releases, like, how can we get this out there? And I think that it's it's been very difficult, especially in the past couple months because of what's been going on. So when we're not in a pandemic and we're not in a complete upside down world, normally the course of action for a publicist is to, first of all, start very early. We pick our projects up, 6 months in advance usually, and we start doing the promotion for them about 3 to 4 months ahead of that, ahead of the drop. Of the release, that is. So we are spending those first couple months like accumulating all the data. I like to get my liner notes from the artist. I want to get album bio. I want to get all the written materials in place so that we can really easily put together a press release. So once we put together our press release and we have that document put together, then we are able to start making the materials like the one sheet and all of that. And we're getting that out to press about 3 months or so before the album comes out. So we're generally sending it digitally. I do still send physical copies, especially in jazz. We still have a need for that. And especially in radio too, which we do a little bit of. They absolutely need to have physical CDs. So we do that first. And once we get all this together, we send everything out, and then we're really pitching for reviews and for interviews and editorial features and stuff like that. And we're pitching with everybody, everybody from Downbeat and Jazz Times and Jazz Is to platforms that are maybe a little bit more mainstream oriented, that cover more than just jazz, to places like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and places like that. So there are a lot of different avenues that we're always trying to hit on when we are putting a project out there. And normally it's a pretty long process, starting from right before it comes out up until well past the project has actually dropped. So we are working projects for quite a long time, and we're in different stages in all of them. So I think sometimes people will come to my website or whatever, and they'll see like how many active projects that we're working at the time. And I've gotten before, oh my God, you work so many, like how is that possible? But the truth is that a lot of them are in really different parts of their life. So projects that, let's say the projects that released at the beginning of this year, we started working on those, let's say for February. We started working on that in October. We started putting out the press release in November. Project came out in February, and I'm still actually accumulating reviews for projects that came out at the beginning of the year. So it's a long time. I like to work with my clients, for quite a long period. I don't really put I don't necessarily put a stop date on it. Some publicists, they do it month to month. I do that with some artists, but a lot of the time though it's done in a project by project basis. So in a normal world, we would also have tour support to work with as well. And normally we'd have concerts. And these things would help a lot because we are also, we're able to promote the live experience. And it's a great way for us to pick up local press. And it's a great way for us to really, let's say if we have an artist who's maybe not so well known, where you have to convince folks a little bit to check them out. Obviously, if you have the opportunity for somebody to, do a live show, it helps a lot. But we don't have that right now. So right now we are in a very strange place. We have no concerts, we have no tours. There's a lot of things that we don't have. So it's up to me and people like me that do my job to figure out what content can we put out there that's going to get us results. And it's really hard. Live streaming has been helpful. We've been really, I feel like the response has been really good from press about considering live streams legit and worth covering. When all of this went down in early, mid-March, I was really nervous because I was like in the middle of all these releases that I was rolling out. And I was like, oh my goodness, like we are gonna have a problem because we have no shows. So what are we gonna do? So I immediately had sent something out to my press list and to my media people I deal with, and I was like, begging them to take live stream concerts seriously because we needed them to. And they did. I've been really, really pleased with the response of the press and of radio, and everyone has really adapted really well, I think, to the situation. I mean, we're doing the best we can. It has been a real challenge, but we're trying to make do with not having any shows. So what I would say about the whole situation, I know there's a lot of artists that are maybe watching and maybe considering, like, should they even bother releasing something now? Or is there any point to putting out new music now because of what's happening? Like, is it going to get lost? Do people care? I'll say that when this all started, I had a bunch of releases coming out in March. My March was like one of the busiest months I had on record. And a lot of those releases were major releases, including Lakeisha Benjamin's project, including Tana Alexa's project, just a lot of stuff, big things coming out in the middle of this pandemic. And I was like, what are we going to do? Pretty much everyone kept their dates. We kept everyone's release dates as scheduled. We had a few move ever so slightly, but I thought if we keep the dates the same, we should, because we don't know what's going to happen later on down the line. So many of my artists, I mean, I must have spent, oh my gosh, like 5-6 hours on the phone every day when this all started, and deciding what to do. And a lot of the response I had was that we don't know how long this will go. So yes, we can postpone your project. We can certainly move it to the fall, but we're now approaching the fall. And as we can all see, I mean, I live in New York City. This whole COVID situation doesn't seem to be getting any better. I mean, it is, but as far as like people going to shows and going to concerts, like we're not there yet. So if we had postponed stuff to the fall, we would still be stuck in in this bottleneck now. So I'm really glad that we didn't shift around our dates too much. So if you, and I'll say that it's been successful. Everyone that we released with has done well. They've gotten press. Our artists are generally happy, and it's been okay. So if you are going to be releasing, or you're planning on releasing something, or you had a fall release in the books, I personally think like you should do it. I mean, I think it also all comes down to, what you're putting out there in the world. I mean, is it something that the world needs now? And if you think that the world needs to hear what you're doing, then you should put it out. There's a lot of things to consider because we don't know how things are going to, we don't know how things are going to progress in the world. So like an example of this is about 3 weeks ago, I had kind of reached the conclusion that the COVID situation was starting to kind of work itself out, in a way, as far as press goes, like that we all kind of were on the same page. We know what's happening. We have a plan of how to deal with this, and we got into the rhythm. And then George Floyd was killed on May 25th, which happens to be my anniversary. That's how I remember it. And that just, it threw everything into a tailspin, because now we have a major, another major world issue happening. And that does have a tendency to suck the air out of the room. And sometimes if we are, for example, going to be, shopping around a new recording, that might not be, from an artist of, that's relevant to this particular situation, we are in a tough spot. And it creates a problem. So at the end of May, suddenly I was forced to kind of deal with this all over again, reevaluate. Are we going to drop our releases this week? I was supposed to actually, with Tana Alexa, Surin Chip, and Owen Broder, work on launching the Live from Our Living Rooms Creative Summit and Fundraiser, which we did the first one around. I know Tana did one of these segments not too long ago. We were going to launch that the very beginning of June, and we decided to hold off. They decided to hold off, and I agreed with them because I didn't think the climate, I agreed with them. The climate was not right. So we had to rearrange all of that and figure out what we're going to do, and so we moved it. So now it's starting in July. So there's been a lot of recon having to happen. As a publicist, I am like constantly kind of watching what's going on and trying to adapt immediately. And that has been definitely a challenge, So now here we are in the middle of June, and we're continuing to deal with what's going on in the world, and we have to just adapt to that. Something that's been a challenge for me as well has been that I've been talking about this on Facebook a bit. So if you're friends with me online, you probably have seen this. I posted something yesterday. We've had a lot of loss in the community in all ways. We've had a loss from our jobs, of course. We've lost a lot of people that were very important to us. Wallace Roney being one of my clients who we did lose. And it's been really, it's been really hard. But we're not the only ones going through this. Every industry is feeling this crunch right now, and journalism is really feeling it too. So when we've got, major publications like the Hollywood Reporter and Billboard laying off 30% of their staff, and we've got freelance budgets being completely smushed out of a lot of the publications that we, as music lovers read. And plus, NPR is going through a lot of furloughs. There's a lot of changes being done behind the scenes on how they cover music. I mean, there's a lot going on that we are all suffering from. So for me, like, if I'm pitching around a project that I think has broad appeal and crossover appeal, like, what am I supposed to do if the writer that I used to work with is no longer there? And this is something that has been probably the biggest challenge, is that we're losing a lot of our soldiers, jazz soldiers that still cover this music. And it's been really difficult to have to deal with that. So we're kind of dealing with like a shrinking pool of people that can cover jazz and that will cover jazz, especially when it comes to the bigger stuff. And by bigger, I don't mean that as a slight to anything in our circle. I just mean, that has broad readership. It's been definitely a challenge. And so it really comes down to us trying to think of like, how can we work around that? I am researching every single day. I mean, seriously, I must spend, I don't know how many hours a week I spend researching. I mean, just checking out every corner to see if there's a writer or a journalist or an editor or a publication or something that I've missed that maybe covers jazz or that would be open to covering jazz. I think that it's really important to be proactive and stay on top of this stuff because, while budgets are diminishing and while opportunities are shrinking in some ways, that also leaves the room for other things to come up. I'm part of a group, a PR group on Facebook, and, we chat sometimes about what's going on. And there was once one of the publicists that I talk with sometimes, she said that we now have the opportunity more than ever for journalists to create their own platforms, for everyone to sort of, do their own thing, where maybe they, of course, no one has a readership like Rolling Stone or Billboard to start with, but they have to start somewhere. So I think it's really important to encourage that amongst journalists and encourage that amongst the media and encourage that, there are still, like, we want to read what you're writing about. I mean, I know as a publicist, I want to. So it's also about, encouraging that to happen as well, so that it's not just, we're reliant on who we are and then they have problems because of budgets or, their coverage is maybe pivoting to coronavirus and they're not able to cover jazz and, all of that. So it has been a challenge, but, we're working through it. And we'll see how things look a couple months from now. Every day, every middle of the month, actually, it's kind of scary because there's like another round of layoffs that comes through. Like yesterday, I posted about it. It was NPR or a bunch of public radio stations, WBZ in Chicago. Like they all cut a lot of their staff. And the month before that, it was Condé Nast. The month before that, it was Billboard. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what the next couple months bring. But I can assure you that I am spending countless hours a day trying to figure out how to adapt to all this. And I am more successful in some ways than others, but we're trying. I have had a couple questions. Let's see. So Gail, do you have any luck getting TV coverage for jazz artists? If so, what do you think the TV programs are looking for? It's a really good question. Surprisingly, or maybe not, I don't do a lot of TV work in jazz PR because it's really hard to get placements. Funny thing is that my first ever Grammy nominees, the Baylor Project, who I love, Marcus and Jean, the best. They were nominated for their 2 Grammys. They were nominated for traditional R&B and for vocal jazz album. And oh my gosh, I pitched them so hard to every television studio and station and show in the world. And it was even with 2 Grammy nominations and with the background that Marcus and Jean both have, it was really, really, really hard to place those. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is, I mean, I don't know if any, I mean, I'm sure people in this group watch Marcus and Jean on Facebook Live. Like, they are hilarious. Like, you couldn't have a better subject for an interview, but it was really hard to place them. And so I think that a lot of the time when it comes to television, I feel that, you know, you're dealing with a very, very, very slim picking of who talent bookers are willing to look at. So, you know, even with Catherine Russell, you know, when she got her Grammy nomination this past year, I pitched her, you know, for a bunch of very high profile spots, and they all got back to me, you know, and they all said that they loved her, or that they were interested in having her, but that, you know, they had to, you know, it wasn't right for their audience now, or if she wins, let's circle back and see, you know, so it's definitely a difficult thing. I think, though, that name recognition is really what goes a long way with that television. And in the meantime, what I try to do is just develop a great press kit, or to show all of the accolades they've received thus far, and it kind of can sometimes help move those things in the right direction. Something I do want to say about press is that, you know, social media is hand in hand with press. Like, I can get you all the reviews in the world. I can get you everything, you know, anything that you, well, I can't get you everything. I try to get you everything, but I can try to get you as many reviews as I can. But if those are not being alerted to your audience, then, I mean, what's the point? Kind of. I mean, we will read about it. Like, jazz heads will read about it, but what about beyond that, you know? So you have to be promoting these things on social media. If we get you a review, we get you a placement, and, you know, even if it's a small little thing, it's like these things all kind of add up, and they all kind of help each other. So if someone's able to, like, look at your, you know, your Instagram and your Facebook and see that you've been getting, you know, consistent press, that you've been able to get consistent coverage, then that definitely can really help me when I'm pitching for other stuff. There are a lot of outlets that are looking at your numbers on social media. I have some where they won't even look at the artist if they have under 10,000 people on Facebook. Super lame. I mean, I don't know why. It sucks that that's kind of the deciding factor with whether or not someone gets covered, but it happens all the time. So I'll have clients, you know, give me their wish list, and I'll say, I really want to get NPR, or I really want to get Paste in Daytrotter, you know, a session with them, or I really want to get this or get that. I mean, sometimes people from these publications or outlets will straight up tell me, I love her, but way under the threshold, can't do it. So we also are really kind of thinking about, like, how can we build the social media, the social media profiles of our artists. Now, I don't do social media. That's another job. Social media manager is someone else. PR and social media are different, but they do help each other. So it's really important to really be giving, you know, the artist content to post about. You need to be able to post something so you can keep building your rapport online, and that's kind of the benefit of of having a publicist in that way to give you things. I know it sounds insane, like I'm paying a publicist to give me content to paste on Facebook, but it's true. It really does make a big difference, and that is kind of part of what I'm doing with clients, is trying to really, like, develop that. Let me see now if I've got some more questions here. I'm looking at these on my phone, so let me see. Let's see. Yes, Monica says, releases have gotten good attention with an unpredictable future. The best strategy is to move forward and create it. Agreed. Would love to have feedback from jazz artists on their current strategies for an upcoming publication in CS. Well, I see upcoming publication, and that sounds like it's up my alley. So, Monica, you'll be getting an email from me. I apologize in advance. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see. All right. Well, if there are questions, feel free to drop them in. I'm a little bit on a delay, so I might not see it right away, but feel free to drop it on in. I guess I can preview some of the stuff that's coming up that I hope you will check out. These days, without concerts and without tours, press is really important. It's kind of like the only thing, in some ways, the only new thing that a lot of these artists, you know, are able to have right now, because we don't have shows. So, you know, having a new article from Downbeat or having something like that is, like, a really nice thing. So some of the the projects that are coming, that would be great for everyone tuning in to watch, is there is going to be quite a bit coming out in July. We've got Nicole Zaritis has a new release in July. She is releasing a really nice project called All Wandering Hearts on .time. Nicole was nominated for a Grammy not too long ago, so this is a great project that I'm really excited about. I've also got a really fun project coming from Regina Carter, and it is called Swing States, and it's very politically fueled, and it's it's obviously an extremely timely project, and it's really all about the importance of voting. And John Batiste is on that project, Harvey Mason Jr., so good. So that's coming out in July. And then I also have a new project coming out from Derek Gardner and his Big Dig Big Band called Still I Rise. It's also an excellent project. Derek is based in Canada, and it's awesome. Some other ones, we have Mafalda Minozi. She has her project Sensorial. It's coming out on July 20th, and this is another great project. It is, Bossa Nova meets New York City by way of Italy, or some formation of that. It's really fun. And then also Ryan Cohen has a project coming out on Origin called Originations, which is quite an incredible project. It includes a lot of his Arab and Jewish roots. Kind of inspired this suite. And I also have a new release coming from a wonderful drummer, Jorge Perez Albella. He's based in Boston, and it is his debut recording called The Time Is Now. So, as you can see, and also Julian Shore has a new project coming out in July on Tone Row Records, which is called Where We Started, and it's great. So as you can see by all these releases, I'm kind of going through them because I wanted to showcase the diversity of the roster. So we have projects that kind of are big band projects. We have ones that are more straight ahead, some that are kind of cross genre, like Mafalda's project or Nicole's, in different ways. And I think that it's really important, as a publicist and as someone in this industry, to make sure that we are spreading this music to as many people as we can. So that's why a lot of the projects I take are very different. And sometimes I'll have people be like, how can you possibly, be pitching a straight ahead jazz project, 1 hour, and then the next hour you're pitching, a world music project. Isn't that completely a different way of thinking? And it is. But I feel like it's really important to do that. We have to broaden this music and get it out to as many people as possible. And you never know what someone's entry point's going to be. So, for some people, the entry point's really straightforward. It's, like my dad always talks about when he saw John Coltrane, that was his, he saw John Coltrane, he was sold. I have friends that are not in music at all. They're my, straight job friends where I test theories on them and stuff. And I'm always very intrigued to see what is their entry point. What is their thing that gets them into jazz. And you don't know what that's going to be. Michael Alatuja just released a phenomenal project just last week called Lagos Pepper Soup. And I mean, this is such a good release. I can definitely see this as being a project that brings people into jazz, no doubt. And that's why I take them. That's why I take projects like this. I think that it's important to do that. So not everybody will agree with everything I'm working. I certainly get journalists that are like, why did you send me this? I don't want this. They don't always, though. But sometimes, because it's too straight ahead, or I'm sorry, not straight ahead enough, or too pop, or too this, or too that. But I don't know. You never know what's gonna work. So that's why we take quite a diverse group of projects coming out. So unless there's any more questions, which I do understand that this is not the most interesting of topics. PR is kind of boring. But if you do have any follow-up questions, you are welcome to shoot me an email or say hey. I am really, again, thankful to you, Gail, for inviting me to be part of this today. I hope it didn't bore you all to death. And I just would like to say again that people like Gail are really what this industry really needs. People who step up. I mean, Gail, in the wake of this pandemic, Gail has done a lot of really, really phenomenal work. And we need that. We really do need that. And I'm really appreciative to you, Gail, for having this forum and for inviting me. And also early on, for recommending me to so many of your clients who are actually among my favorites that I work with, but don't tell anyone. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I hope that you all have a great evening, and hit me up if anyone has any questions or a new project to work from October on. We are booked until then. So thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye.